Welcome back. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has extended its mobile testing activity at the VG Sports Complex in Castries. People with respiratory symptoms and those who are referred from contact tracing can access free COVID-19 testing at this site from Monday the 1st of February to Friday the 5th of February from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. All coming to this location are required to bring a valid form of ID. The mobile testing activity will also focus on health education on the COVID-19 virus, including the promotion of infection prevention and control measures. For individuals who have done a COVID-19 test at the VG Sports Complex, you will be contacted by the Community Nursing Service with the test results. In the interim, you are asked to remain in quarantine until contacted via telephone by a healthcare worker. The leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, has once again appealed to the government of St. Lucia to heed the advice of the opposition. During an address, Pierre relayed a 7-point COVID-19 action plan. He says if the virus is to be defeated, the lives of the people of the country need to be preserved.
As the country continues to battle with an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases being recorded, the leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, has once again requested that the current administration make use of the proposal presented by the opposition. The St. Lucia Labour Party has presented a 7-point COVID-19 action plan, which it believes will benefit all.
Expand the testing and tracing. 2. Expand treatment capacity. 3. Rethink travel and tourism measures. 4. Revise the partial shutdown. 5. Protect our education sector. 6. Quickly implement a vaccination program. And 7. Implement an economic and social relief program.
Pierre also commented on the need to extend the country's testing capacity, given the recent backlog being experienced by the Ezra Long Lab.
The forensic laboratory, which has the technical capacity to do testing, should be brought on stream with the necessary medical oversight. Additionally, private labs should be licensed to perform molecular tests as well. An electronic test results online portal should be created to ensure the speedy, confidential, and verifiable delivery of test results and to improve the administrative efficiency of the Ezra Long Lab.
He went on to say that there is need for more and better quality quarantine facilities. Pierre also implored the authorities to make use of modern technology to assist with contact tracing. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzaga.
Meanwhile, UWP spokesperson Nancy Charles is responding to some of the claims made by the leader of the opposition. Genevieve Gonzaga reports.
The address to the nation by the leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, did not impress the senior heads of the United Workers' Party. Senior official of the UWP, Nancy Charles, says there was no need for the opposition leader to address the nation, given that he came up with no new initiatives and was simply criticizing the government and spreading misinformation.
We look at something like the electronic online portal. This is something that we've had running from last year for persons who wish to return to St. Lucia, travel to St. Lucia. And to date, if the leader of the opposition does not know these things are happening, I think it's best perhaps that he do a little bit of fact-finding, perhaps call the various agencies, Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Health, find out what is going on in the country, and then he can find a reason to issue a statement and to criticize if there is a need. In terms of the contact tracing app, these are things that we've had on the ground already from January of this year. We've had the contact tracing app, we've had the bio button, and we've had the watches as well for visitors and returning nationals who are in home quarantine.
Charles has called for the SLP to get their position on the running of the country in check, as they seem to constantly contradict themselves. She says perhaps if the SLP would actually take the time to find out and understand what is transpiring and what protocols are in place, then they would be in a better position to give advice.
In one hand, you got the Labour Party criticizing the reopening of the economy with reference to tourism, and making it seem that we should not allow tourists to come in. And on the other hand, he now speaks to having a safe tourism sector. And so I think the leader of the opposition perhaps needs to get his mind straight. He needs to get his policy statement straight with reference to tourism and with reference to what he thinks that should happen in the country. Have a dialogue perhaps with the SLHTA. Have a dialogue is the technical people at the Ministry of Tourism to find out what the protocols are, how it is that we are operating, and perhaps if we make some recommendations, then those ministries and those agencies can take that into consideration.
She says, all in all, the UWP is disappointed in what the leader of the opposition came out to say, as he gave no new ideas, nor was his criticism constructive. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
The employees of Liat have found themselves at the center of a troublesome dilemma surrounding severance pay. Regional heads of government have been asked to help cover the cost of severance entitlements of over $70 million to former employees of the regional carrier. However, whether the leaders will agree to make payments is left to be seen. Rochelle Gonzalez has more.
The fate of Liat workers and their severance pay from the regional airliner is hanging in the balance after regional leaders were asked to make a contribution towards the payment, which has amounted to a sum that would be impossible for the airliner to meet even after its eventual liquidation. Court-appointed Administrator Cleveland Seaforth made the request to the different leaders. However, this has been seen as a tall order to fulfill due to the global struggle of governments caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In explaining his request to the regional governments, Seaforth stated, quote, "The employees were of the firm view that by virtue of the company being primarily owned by governments of the region, it was most unlikely that hardship would come to them because there was an expectation that the company would never be abandoned by the respective governments." End quote. With St. Lucia falling into the bracket as a small number of the group of employees are St. Lucian, Hot 7 sat with civil society representative Richard Peterkin to gain understanding of the situation. He said he does not envy Seaforth's position.
He's had a tough task in taking on this job, and I know as he's coming towards the end of the administration that it's getting particularly difficult because, you know, they've had problems kind of coming back on stream, and they have huge liabilities, which he's talking about here. And I think what he's saying is that there are liabilities owed to the employees of Liat for severance, which amounts to, if you know, he talked about, I think 79 million anyway, at the end of the day. And he was not expecting to get much proceeds from the sale of any of Liat's other assets, so that the only way these amounts were going to be paid is if the shareholders and island governments that had a stake, in a sense, in Liat were to pay the amounts presumably due to the Liat employees in their different jurisdictions. And I really feel sorry for those employees because, I mean, these are folks that work for Liat for a long time, pilots, ground handlers, everybody. And they now have probably not had a salary since last year, March.
Peterkin said the reality is even worse than the notion.
The bad news, in a way, is what Mr. Seaforth is saying is not only is there no money, but that their only hope is that if, in fact, the island governments were to come up with money to pay, and that's 79 million. And what we all know is that every island government is struggling as a result of COVID, so every dollar counts, and they certainly don't have spare cash to pay those who are not direct employees. They are keeping employed, as we are in St. Lucia, all of our people who work for the government. And so to have to, you know, pay persons who now were really employed with Liat, when there's no direct connection, for example, St. Lucia was not a shareholder of Liat, is going to be a huge burden. I mean, I think we'd all like if the employees could get severance from somewhere. The question is it even possible for the government to find that additional money to pay them?
Peterkin said although Seaforth is trying to be hopeful by suggesting that there is a legal liability that the islands owe monies to foot the bill, he stated on the other hand that from what he knows of business, there is no legal liability for shareholders as well as the islands that were not shareholders to pay severance, notwithstanding that they've all benefited from Liat. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Government Senator and Minister Herman Gill Francis says he is a man with a plan when it comes to proper representation for the Vieux Fort South constituency. He is hoping to win the Labour-held seat in the next general election. To do that, he will have to defeat incumbent MP Dr. Kenny Anthony.
Is National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis trying to settle a score with the present representative for the Vieux Fort South constituency, Dr. Kenny Anthony? This was a question posed by Hot Seat host Crystal Revere to the minister on Wednesday, as he announced his bid to run for the seat in the upcoming general elections. Francis, who has been on both sides of the political sphere, says it is time that a son of the soil run for the seat.
There was a young man in Vieux Fort called Claude Charlemagne, and he is an ex-police officer, so we had discussions and so on, and we decided that we were going to face off in a runoff. But then I don't just go into things blindly. So I did my homework, and I recognized that he was the choice. He was the person that Vieux Fortians really wanted to run the seat. But I don't know what difficulty he has with the party, what transpired. So I took a back step, a little slide back, and allowed him to go forward. But then he called me one day and said, but you know, Mangel, I think I'm finished with that. But you know, if it's not me, the only other person that can do that is you. And so I said, well, okay, let's have a meeting with some of the supporters down there in Vieux Fort and so on. And then we had the meeting with the supporters, and I think they understood and they liked my philosophy for Vieux Fort, what I intend to do for Vieux Fort, and that's it. We're here now fighting. He's my campaign manager, and I have some very ardent supporters in Vieux Fort. They've said it's a long time now that they haven't had a son of the soil to represent them, so at least now they're going to see, because I think Peter was the last person to do it, Peter Josie.
Francis disclosed some of the plans for the constituency, which involve finding a way to garner funds so the constituency can help itself.
I look at sports, I look at education, I look at employment, I look at housing. There are a lot of developments that we are looking for in Vieux Fort. Some of the things that I want to discuss with my Prime Minister before, but I can give you an idea. That you have the airport, international airport. What has Vieux Fort benefited from the international airport? It's just a transit. So people come from Castries. Most of the tourists that come, they come to the north, all right? And our citizens come back. Most of the people are around the Vieux Fort, Soufrière, and these places, and they travel. But Vieux Fort doesn't get anything. So I need something for Vieux Fort. So just as we have the tax for the airport tax and these other things, the Prime Minister will have to find a way of giving me at least $2 per head. Now, if I do have that, I can look at what Soufrière is doing with this Soufrière Foundation. So they can have a Vieux Fort Foundation. So Vieux Fort can start to help its own self.
As for the issue of Francis going up against his former mentor, Dr. Kenny Anthony, he says it is a matter of history repeating itself.
It's just fortuitous that here it is, that somebody who rejected me has to deal with me in Vieux Fort, in my hometown. Okay, it's not his hometown, it's mine. Okay, but there's no enmity between myself and Dr. Anthony. I have too much respect for Dr. Anthony to ever hate Dr. Anthony. I mean, I have a law degree now. When I sign my name, I put LLB behind my name, thanks to him.
For the Hot 7 News, Lisha Charles reporting.
The Castries City Council has formally announced that Saturday flea markets will be suspended. The Press and Communications Officer in the Office of the Mayor, Jason Hollingshead, made the revelation on Friday.
The decision has been taken to suspend our weekend flea markets until further notice. This is all in an effort to maintain the social distancing protocols.
He says that while he understands that many depend on the flea market, the CCC is trying to encourage vendors and tenants to follow the health and safety protocols.
We know that persons always look forward to flea market shopping deals. However, given the current situation, we need to take action to mitigate the spread of the virus. And so we wish to apologize for any inconveniences, as these measures are necessary to ensure the safety of all, as we remain committed in supporting the calls from the authorities for persons to exercise social distancing.
That was Press and Communications Officer in the Office of the Mayor, Jason Hollingshead. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more coming up after the break.